Good morning, everyone, today. I'm so excited to take you on a little journey through the wonders of England, a land where history whispers through the stones of ancient castles, and where rolling meadows greet the morning mist like a soft embrace. England is more than just a country on the map. It feels like a storybook come to life. Picture a countryside where wildflowers bloom along quiet lanes, where cottages with thatched roofs seem painted by an artist's hand, and where the air holds both the freshness of rain and the fragrance of gardens. One of the most magical things about England is how the landscape changes with such charm. In the villages of the Cotswolds, colored stone houses glow golden in the sunlight. Little rivers ripple gently past stone bridges, and every corner looks like it belongs in a fairy tale. Then there's the Lake District, where mountains cradle deep lakes that mirror the skies above. Standing there at dawn, when mist curls over the water, feels like stepping into a dream. But what makes these places truly amazing isn't only their beauty, it's the feeling they give you. Walking through a meadow in the morning, hearing the distant church bells of a village, or sharing tea in a cozy little cafe, it makes you feel connected to something timeless, something gentle and pure. England's wonders aren't just found in great landmarks, but in the quiet corners of villages, the laughter spilling out of pubs, the gardens bursting with roses, and the simple charm of life lived close to nature. So whenever I think of the wonders of England, I see a place where meadows meet mist, where every path holds a story, and where every village has a heart waiting to welcome you. England's landscapes are a symphony of gentle beauty, where every turn of the path seems to unfold into a new canvas, painted by nature itself. When you think of England, the image that so often rises first is the countryside, endless green meadows stretching far and wide, dotted with wildflowers that sway softly with the breeze. These meadows are more than just open spaces. They are living, breathing parts of the nation's soul. In spring, they burst into color with bluebells, buttercups, and daisies, carpeting the land as if nature herself has carefully laid down her finest embroidery. Cows and sheep graze quietly in the distance, completing the serene picture of rural life that feels as though it has remained untouched for centuries. There is a certain softness to the English landscape, a quiet poetry that doesn't scream for attention but instead whispers gently, asking you to pause and simply be present. The way the light falls on the fields at dawn or dusk creates moments of pure magic. A meadow under the golden glow of early morning sun, with dewdrops shimmering like tiny jewels on the grass, feels like stepping into a world that belongs entirely to peace. And then comes the mist, that delicate veil that hovers over valleys and fields, wrapping the countryside in mystery. Mist in England is not heavy or menacing, it's tender and almost romantic. It rolls over the meadows, curling around trees and hedgerows as though the earth is exhaling. It softens every edge, blurs every line, and transforms ordinary landscapes into something dreamlike. The meeting of meadow and mist is one of England's quiet wonders. Imagine walking along a winding footpath on an early morning in late autumn. The meadow is spread out before you, covered in a blanket of pale silver mist that rises slowly as the sun begins to climb. Trees emerge like gentle shadows, and the outlines of cottages in the distance seem to float in a world between reality and dream. There is a calmness in that moment that is almost spiritual, as if nature is reminding you of its ability to heal and enchant. This is a scene that painters have long tried to capture on canvas, and poets have woven into verse, but standing there in person, you realize it's something words and brushstrokes can only ever approach. England's landscapes are also deeply tied to its heritage. The meadows you see today are often ancient, shaped by centuries of farming and the rhythms of rural life. Many are lined with hedgerows that themselves are hundreds of years old, creating little natural boundaries full of birdsong and small wildlife. These hedgerows burst into bloom with hawthorn and elder in spring, while in autumn they gift berries that feed both creatures and people. There is a sense of continuity in these landscapes. The same meadows that cradle sheep today would have held them hundreds of years ago, and the same mist that drifts across the valleys now would have drifted across the land when kings and queens rode through it. Part of what makes England's landscapes so enchanting is the changing of the seasons. In summer, the meadows are full of light, warmth, and wildflowers, inviting picnics and long walks. Autumn paints them in shades of amber and rust, with the mist becoming more frequent, clinging to the fields in the crisp morning air. Winter brings a quiet stillness, where frost settles on every blade of grass, and the meadows look like they've been sprinkled with silver. Then comes spring again, renewing everything with vibrant greens and blossoms that seem even more beautiful after the quiet hush of winter. Each season brings its own character, but the meeting of meadows and mist is constant, creating a sense of timelessness. Even the skies above add to the wonder of England's landscapes. The clouds move quickly, casting shifting shadows over the meadows, so that the same view can look entirely different in just a few moments. The light here has inspired countless artists, from Turner's glowing skies to Constable's pastoral scenes. There's a reason so many creators have found their muse in England's countryside. It's a place where the ordinary becomes extraordinary simply by existing. When walking through these landscapes, there is a connection not only with nature, but also with something deeper, something within yourself. The openness of the meadows gives a sense of freedom, while the mist invites introspection. It is as though the land itself holds space for both joy and reflection. You feel small in the best possible way, humbled, comforted, and reminded of the beauty that exists in simplicity. The charm of villages like the Cotswolds is something that feels almost timeless, as though you have stepped into a storybook world where the pages are still alive. The Cotswolds are famous for their golden stone cottages, built from the honey, colored limestone that seems to glow warmly in both sunlight and rain. Walking through these villages feels like wandering through an old painting where every detail is placed with care. The houses lean gently into narrow lanes, their roofs covered with traditional thatch or weathered slate, each one carrying the history of centuries gone by. Ivy and climbing roses often trail across the walls, blooming in bursts of pink, red, and white, as if nature herself has decided to decorate every corner with her finest touch. The streets of Cotswold villages are not grand boulevards, but rather winding paths and cobblestone alleys that invite you to slow down and take in the surroundings. Each turn reveals something new: a small taroom with steam curling from the spout of a teapot, a quaint little bookshop with shelves stacked to the ceiling, or a market square where locals gather to sell fresh produce and handmade crafts. There is a sense of intimacy in these places, where the pace of life is gentle and where every smile feels genuine. Even the air has its own special fragrance, carrying the scent of fresh bread from bakeries, mingled with the perfume of lavender gardens that seem to flourish effortlessly. What makes these villages so special is not only their appearance but the feeling they carry. They hold centuries of stories within their stones. Many of the cottages date back to the medieval period, their wooden beams still strong despite the passing of time. Old churches rise in the center of many villages, their spires pointing gracefully to the sky, bells ringing softly across the fields. It is easy to imagine generations gathering there, marking the milestones of life in the same spaces where people gather today. The sense of continuity is almost tangible, as if time moves differently in these villages, weaving the past and the present together into a single thread. The surrounding landscapes only enhance their beauty. Rolling hills stretch in every direction, covered in patchwork fields divided by hedgerows and stone walls that have stood for centuries. Sheep dot the fields like tiny white specks, while rivers and streams weave their way through meadows, reflecting the sky in their calm waters. Some villages rest on gentle hillsides, their cottages tumbling down in terraces that seem to follow the natural curve of the land, while others nestle deep in valleys, hidden like secrets waiting to be discovered. Walking from one village to another feels like stepping through different chapters of the same enchanting tale. There is also a warmth in the traditions that continue to thrive here. Village fairs with colorful bunting, local pubs filled with laughter and the sound of clinking glasses, and little artisan shops selling handmade pottery or woolen scarves bring a human charm that cannot be replicated elsewhere. Afternoon tea is not just a custom, but a cherished ritual where scones are served with clotted cream and jam on delicate china, and conversations drift lazily as the hours pass. Even the smallest details, a post box painted bright red, a bicycle leaning against a stone wall, or a basket of fresh flowers hanging outside a cottage door, add to the feeling that these villages are places where life is lived with heart. The Cotswolds have also long been a source of inspiration for writers, artists, and travelers who seek solace in their beauty. To walk the narrow lanes at dusk, when the last rays of sunlight set the limestone cottages aglow, is to understand why so many people have fallen in love with these places. There is an undeniable romance in the air, not in the grand or dramatic sense, but in the simple, tender moments that make life feel beautiful. It is the way the golden light falls across a stone bridge, the way the flowers spill over garden fences, and the way the villages seem to welcome you, as though you've always belonged there. Every village has its own personality, from Burton, on the water with its gentle river running through the heart of the town, to by Barry, often described as one of the most beautiful villages in England, where rows of cottages line up perfectly like a scene from a dream. Then there is Castle Comer with its medieval charm and cobblestone streets, where it feels as if time has paused entirely. Each village tells its own story, yet together they create a tapestry of charm that captures the very essence of the English countryside. The magic of the Lake District lies in its ability to feel both vast and intimate at the same time, a place where mountains rise like guardians over deep, glassy lakes that reflect the skies above with perfect clarity. It is a landscape that seems to hold every shade of green, from the softest moss along the stone walls to the rich forests that cover the hillsides, and every glimpse feels like a painting that has come to life. The air is always fresh, often carrying the scent of rain, earth, and wood smoke drifting from distant cottages, and the quiet hum of nature creates a music that is both calming and endlessly enchanting. The stillness of a lake in the early morning, when mist drifts lazily across its surface, is one of the most breathtaking sights imaginable, as though the world itself has paused in reverence for the beauty that lies there. Every lake in the district seems to have its own character. Windermere stretches with grandeur, wide and long, a place where boats glide peacefully and swans drift along the shore, while Derwentwater feels softer and more serene, surrounded by rolling hills that rise gently into the distance. Ullswater is dramatic, edged with rugged cliffs and dotted with small islands that seem made for daydreams, while Grasmere, smaller and more intimate, is like a secret kept between the mountains. Each body of water is cradled by the surrounding fells, and each offers a different kind of magic, whether it is the stillness of a calm morning or the drama of storm clouds rolling in across the peaks. The play of light across these waters is endless, shifting with every passing cloud, creating moments that can never truly be captured, only experienced. The mountains themselves are not towering giants like those found in distant lands, but their presence is powerful all the same. They rise in graceful slopes and rugged ridges, covered in heather, grass, and ancient stone. Paths wind up and around them, inviting walkers and dreamers to climb and see the world spread out below. From the summit of Helvellyn or Scafell Pike, the highest peaks in the region, the view stretches endlessly, a panorama of lakes, valleys, and villages that look like tiny jewels scattered across the land. Yet even the smaller hills carry their own kind of beauty. offering quiet paths where the only sounds are the crunch of your footsteps and the call of distant birds. It is a place where nature feels both grand and welcoming, inviting you to lose yourself in its rhythm. There is also a deep sense of history woven into the landscape. Dry stone walls, built by hand centuries ago, stretch across fields and hillsides in patterns that look like art from above. Old farmhouses sit in valleys, their stone walls weathered but strong, still standing in harmony with the land around them. Ancient woodlands, with trees that have watched the centuries unfold, shade quiet paths where streams run clear over stones worn smooth by time. Villages with slate-roofed cottages and cozy inns nestle in the valleys, their charm as much a part of the Lake District as the mountains and waters themselves. Life here has always moved in step with the land, and that connection can still be felt in every corner. The Lake District has long been a place that inspires creativity. It was here that poets like Wordsworth found their voice, moved by the beauty of daffodils dancing in the breeze beside a lake, or by the quiet majesty of the mountains. Artists have painted its ever-changing skies, and writers have set their stories among its valleys and villages. To walk through the same landscapes today is to understand why so many have found inspiration here, for the land seems to speak in a language of beauty that touches the heart. There is a poetry in the very air, a sense that every tree, every rock, and every ripple on the water carries a story waiting to be felt. Even in the smallest details, the magic of the Lake District shines through. A tiny stream trickling down the hillside, edged with wildflowers, catches the light like liquid silver. A cluster of sheep grazing peacefully adds to the pastoral charm, their presence as much a part of the scene as the lakes and mountains themselves. The sound of church bells drifting across a valley, the sight of a rainbow arching over a misty lake after a rain shower, or the feeling of sitting quietly on a stone wall, watching the world around you come alive with color and movement, all create moments that linger in the memory long after you leave. Everyday wonders in England reveal themselves not through grandeur or spectacle, but through the quiet details that fill ordinary life with extraordinary charm. A cup of tea, poured steaming into a delicate porcelain cup, is more than a drink here. It is a ritual of comfort, conversation, and pause. Afternoon tea, with its plates of scones piled high, clotted cream spread thick, and strawberry jam glistening like jewels, is not rushed but savored. The slow pouring of milk, the gentle clink of teaspoons, and the soft chatter around the table create moments that feel timeless. Even in the simplest kitchen, the warmth of a teapot on the counter speaks of a culture that finds joy in small, shared comforts. Tea is not just a beverage, it is a gesture of welcome, an invitation to slow down, to sit, and to connect. Gardens add their own kind of wonder to daily life, from sprawling estates filled with manicured lawns and ancient oak trees to small cottage gardens overflowing with blooms. Roses climb over wooden arches, tulips stand tall in spring, and lavender fills the summer air with its calming fragrance. There is something deeply grounding about English gardens, where beauty grows alongside practicality, with vegetables, herbs, and flowers often sharing the same soil. A garden is both a retreat and a celebration, a place where mornings begin with birdsong and evenings end with the soft glow of lanterns among the blossoms. Even the smallest garden, tucked behind a village cottage, can feel like a private paradise where every plant has been chosen with love. The charm of cozy corners is another everyday wonder, found in places where warmth and intimacy wrap around you like a blanket. A country pub with its crackling fireplace, wooden beams overhead, and the laughter of friends lingering late into the evening feels like the heart of a community. There are bookshops where time seems to stand still, the scent of old pages filling the air as you wander through narrow aisles lined with shelves that nearly touch the ceiling. Cafes with rain tapping against the window panes offer a perfect refuge, where a slice of Victoria sponge cake and a pot of tea make the world outside fade away. These corners, whether public or private, offer not just shelter but a sense of belonging, a reminder that beauty can be found in the simplest of settings. The rhythm of everyday life in England is full of gentle traditions that transform ordinary routines into moments of meaning. Villages often hold weekly markets, where stalls brim with fresh bread, golden honey, handmade cheeses, and jars of jam that capture the taste of summer. The hum of conversation fills the air, neighbors greet each other warmly, and there is a sense of continuity in the way these markets carry on, season after season, year after year. Seasonal festivals bring the villages alive, with maypoles in spring, harvest celebrations in autumn, and Christmas lights twinkling in the winter frost. These gatherings, though modest in scale, create a deep sense of connection that enriches the lives of those who take part. Everyday wonders also live in the landscape just beyond the doorstep. A walk along a country lane lined with hedgerows buzzing with bees, or a stroll through a meadow where wildflowers sway gently in the breeze, feels like stepping into another rhythm, one slower and more deliberate. Stone bridges arch gracefully over streams, benches wait beneath the shade of ancient trees, and narrow paths lead past cottages with smoke curling from chimneys. These simple scenes, repeated countless times across the countryside, carry a familiarity that is both comforting and endlessly delightful. The weather itself, so often a topic of conversation, plays its role in shaping daily life with its shifting moods. A soft drizzle that dapples the windows invites cozy afternoons indoors, while a sudden burst of sunlight transforms the gardens and fields into vibrant canvases of color. Rainbows often appear after showers, stretching across the sky like a gift, and mist rolling in across the hills adds mystery even to the most familiar views. There is a charm in the unpredictability, a sense that every day carries its own small surprises. Food and drink, simple and hearty, add to this tapestry of everyday wonders. A warm shepherd's pie served at a wooden table, fresh fish and chips wrapped in paper and eaten by the seaside, or a Sunday roast shared with family creates moments of togetherness that are as nourishing to the soul as they are to the body. These meals, though humble, carry the weight of tradition and the joy of sharing, weaving themselves into the rhythm of daily life with ease. England as a storybook is not simply an idea, but an experience that seems to unfold with every step through its landscapes, villages, and ancient streets. It is a place where history and nature meet so seamlessly that one begins to feel as though the world around has been woven from pages of folklore and legend. Castles rise from hilltops with stone walls weathered by centuries, their towers standing like watchful guardians over the countryside, while cathedrals stretch toward the sky with stained glass glowing softly in the afternoon sun. Walking through these places, one cannot help but imagine the generations who once stood in the same spot, their voices now only echoes carried by the wind. History is not hidden here. It breathes from every brick, every arch, every winding lane that leads deeper into the heart of the past. The storybook quality of England lies not only in its grand landmarks, but also in its quiet corners where life moves with a gentle rhythm. A cobblestone alley lined with lanterns that flicker in the evening, a centuries-old inn with low ceilings and uneven floors, or a stone bridge stretching over a stream where willows bend gracefully toward the water, all seem like illustrations come alive. Even the smallest details, a red telephone box at the edge of a village green, a wooden sign swaying gently in the breeze outside a shop, or the rhythmic toll of church bells on a Sunday morning, carry a sense of charm that feels both familiar and enchanting. Each scene holds the balance of something deeply rooted in tradition, yet alive in the present moment. England's landscapes weave themselves into this story as naturally as ink flows across a page. Meadows stretch like endless chapters, dotted with sheep and bordered by hedgerows that have stood for generations, while the mist that drifts across valleys adds a touch of mystery, as though the land itself guards secrets waiting to be discovered. Forests hold their own kind of magic, where ancient oaks and beeches tower above. their branches forming canopies that filter the sunlight into dappled patterns on the ground. Walking through these woodlands, with the sound of leaves rustling and birds calling overhead, feels like stepping into the world of old fairy tales where enchantment lingers just beyond sight. Villages add their charm to this narrative, each one like a different tale bound together by the same golden thread. In some, rivers run calmly through their center, crossed by stone bridges that seem painted by an artist's hand. In others, cottages line up in rows, their walls covered in ivy and flowers spilling from window boxes, each home looking as if it has its own story to tell. These villages are not simply places on a map, but characters in their own right, shaping the rhythm of life with their markets, their traditions, and their sense of community that endures through centuries. The warmth of their welcome, the quiet conversations in tea rooms, and the celebrations held in their squares create living stories that continue to unfold with every passing day. Legends and folklore deepen the storybook image of England, for this is a land rich with tales of knights and kings, of dragons said to have once roamed the hills, and of ancient stones standing in mysterious circles. Stories of Arthur and Camelot, of Robin Hood in Sherwood Forest, or of mystical creatures hidden in the mists of moors linger like whispers on the wind. Even if one does not believe in their literal truth, there is a certain kind of magic in knowing that these legends have been told and retold across countless generations, becoming part of the very identity of the land. They add layers of wonder to places that might otherwise be seen only as fields, forests, or ruins, reminding every visitor that imagination and history are forever entwined here. The cities, too, hold their place within the story, offering chapters of grandeur and intimacy side by side. In London, history and modern life weave together in a way that feels almost unreal. The grandeur of the Tower of London standing beside the glitter of the Thames at night, or the quiet beauty of Westminster Abbey echoing with centuries of voices while outside the streets hum with movement. Oxford and Cambridge, with their colleges and libraries, seem like entire worlds dedicated to knowledge and tradition, their stone walls draped with ivy and their courtyards filled with the quiet energy of minds at work. Smaller towns, with their markets and cobblestone streets, carry a charm that feels every bit as magical as the great landmarks, as though they are the quieter but no less important pages of the book. What makes England feel so much like a storybook is not just what is seen, but what is felt. The sound of footsteps echoing in ancient halls, the sight of lanterns glowing softly through fog, the fragrance of roses in a summer garden, or the taste of warm bread fresh from a village bakery are all details that stitch themselves into memory. Every sense is touched, and every detail feels like part of a greater tale that has been unfolding for centuries. It is a story that has no single author, but countless voices, those who lived here before, those who live here now, and those who come and carry its magic with them.